Joined now by Patrick Johnston, the province and Post Media. And I got to say, PJ, it was very thoughtful of you to bring Jeff Patterson a birthday cake.
No,
on Saturday.
I was on social media. I think it was Quadrelli that brought the birthday cake.
Oh,
yeah. Wasn't it, PJ? How did that go down?
I'm sorry. I didn't
Hey,
mean
shout
to
out to David for
credit.
Shout out for David for going across the street to Safeway and picking up the Oscar the Grouch cake. But
Oscar the Grouch, wow.
Was it an Oscar the
funny.
Grouch?
I think it was unintentionally funny.
Yeah. Or intentionally.
Yeah. No, I had sort of texted Dave, hey, Dave, we should get J-Pat a cake. He goes, yeah, that's a great idea. So he went across the street and picked it up and brought it to the game.
Did he give you credit for it, or did you get any shine? You're not the kind of guy. You're not the tall poppy, are you? No.
It's not a big deal.
He's a
but yeah. Yeah, no, it was yeah. Wait, so here's the thing.
So you have no gripe with Quadrelli at all?
Last year, certain TSN personality and a certain other place personality yells a lot, looks like me, but no glasses. They combined and got me a birthday cake. It was a very thoughtful gesture at the game. But as you may recall, Mr. Patterson was not attending every game last year. So I thought about, well, Jeff missed out on my birthday last year. So I thought, well, let's make sure we celebrate young Jeffrey. And so there we go. And Quads thought it was a great idea. So there we go.
You and Dollywall don't look that much alike. You said the guy that yells a lot.
I think the other yeller.
Oh.
And then Quadrelli took credit for your idea.
Wow.
So
isn't that what editors do?
It's well.
Rob at Daily Hive, has Rob stolen any of your thunder?
But the quid pro quo is that when you've got to write a tough story or ask a difficult question, you can blame it on the editor.
Yes,
right.
My editor wants you to look. Yeah,
I'm sorry to have to call you and ask you about this, but my editor's screaming at me, and this is the assignment today.
Alex Edler, does the rivalry with the Bruins still exist? I'm sorry, but my editor Paul Chapman has asked me to ask.
Available on Twitter.
And the sigh that you got from Eddie the Eagle was just, he went, oh,
well, I didn't think he wanted to. I don't think he wanted to talk at the best of times, let alone talk about potential.
Oh, he's a nice guy.
No, he's a very good guy, and frankly, every time we talked to him, he was smart, articulate, a lot of. It's just I didn't feel that he sort of wanted to, but when he did answer the bell, he was usually really good.
I think the last time we had him on, like the very last time we had him on, we were like, well, we would have done this a lot more if he was like that.
No,
and
I think the last time we had him on was early in his Kings career.
I had a great chat with him and Troy Stetcher when they finished the season together. What was that, 2 seasons ago?
Yeah.
Kings had me down to the hotel. I talked to them outside their lunchroom.
One of the great Canucks defensemen of all time, frankly. I suspect we're going to see a Ring of Honor announcement with him.
By the way, we were low on the ball. I don't know if you noticed us behind the bench last weekend, but
Friday.
But have you noticed that in the Ring of Honor, some guys take up like 3 panels of the Ring of Honor stuff, and some guys are only a 2-panel guy?
Well, this has been part of the discussion about where Luongo's going to go, because there isn't really any obvious spot, because at some point they're going to have to put 3 next to each other. So or 3 names next to each other.
There's gaps, but there are only 2-panel gaps.
Are not
left.
Uniform gaps.
I wonder if they have to reduce font on some of the other guys. I was
going to say, is this going to be a font size matter?
Yeah, it might be.
They have to do all of them.
No, it's a couple of the 3-panel guys. They need to reduce font. It's not just
a drop down menu. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I really hope
they piecemeal, so the signs will be piecemeal.
One thing that for me has to remain is they've got to keep Pat Quinn by the Canadian flag. Do you remember Willie Desjardins when Pat passed away said, I got to say that every time the anthem plays, I look up and I see Pat there, and as a Hockey Canada guy, it sort of gives me the goosebumps. So the Quinn guy has to stay near the Canadian flag, if you ask me. You can reorder however else you want, decrease font size, but you keep Pat where he is. And frankly, don't diminish Pat's font size. He deserves to be bigger than he's the big Irishman.
Yeah, agreed.
That would be so appropriate. His font is just bigger than everybody else's.
Future Ring of Honor nominee JT Miller. We would like your
hot take.
We would like, he's already building a case, is he not? You're not going to retire his number, at least not unless there's a cup. But, at this stage of the game, he qualifies, Ring of Honor. What did you make of the benching, the response, and then the aftermath?
I mean, first of all, he's almost got 300 games as a Canuck, and in that sort of cohort of guys who've played a lot of games for the Canucks, he is one of only 3 players to be over a point per game over his Canucks career, along with Elias Pettersson and Pavel Bure. I mean, we talked to him yesterday, and it was exactly what should have happened after the game. Like, it was 58 seconds. We got what we needed. You know, he was upset, I guess, with himself. It just, the whole thing was just, it shouldn't have lingered. There was no need for it to linger. Just,
he needed to cool down, PJ. He was not yet cool, even after drawing the penalty and scoring the goal in the third period. Plus, he didn't want to give you fucking media guys the satisfaction.
I guess. Yeah, fine. I mean, in the end, I didn't. Players don't talk. Players are supposed to talk. You know, there's a sort of a bigger dialogue, I think, to be had about how all that's happening and how the rules are being enforced and not enforced. Mostly stuff that I think fans don't care about. I'm always careful in discussing these because, you know, they inevitably end up being our challenges. Yeah, should he have talked after the game? Absolutely. Is there a reason why he probably didn't? Because he didn't want to say something dumb? Sure. But you know what? The game before, they lost on a terrible call by the referee, and everybody talked and everybody played ball, like with the rules. Nobody ran after the refs. So,
well, there's been the edict
after
of
Rick
course.
Tocchet? So,
of course, there was the edict to the coaches, so it was a sensitive spot.
No, but we asked all the players, the players we all talked to, and all of them just, you know, they were mad that they lost. It was obvious they were mad about or why they were mad. But nobody would talk and touch it. So, you know, I mean, he did, and Miller was one of the guys on Saturday. You know, there's a guy who would be annoyed at the refs. So what's he going to do? Rip Rick Tocchet? No, he's just going to be like, you know, literally what he did yesterday. It wasn't a big deal. But essentially implying he let his team down. Yeah. And that's it.
You're absolutely right.
That hard.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about the public. Yeah. They're always on the player side. For the most part, they don't care. Although there are times, of course, when they want to hear from him. But the line is not always drawn. And then in the case of the NHL, I mean, they don't understand marketing or promotion. So until leadership changes there, none of that is going to change and you're going to have your challenges. But anyways, he addressed it. No big whoop. Move on.
Had 2 questions. You know, so
the first
question, sorry, go ahead.
Well, just the one thing Blake and I were saying yesterday is that if that's that, then so be it. Yeah. And the other thing is, you know, all the ways a benching of JT Miller could have gone in this market, that was like perfect. That was 100 out of 100
and got
as an outcome. So if that's it and everybody moves on, it's a footnote in what everybody hopes is a successful season. If somehow it lingers, then you've got to ask yourself whether JT is a corrosive force in there.
Which and you know what, and which is what, like, Jeff tried to kind of give him the out yesterday. Like, the first question, Batch asked the first question and said, you know, essentially, you know, pointed at the elephant in the room. And JT went, well, you know, it was 4 minutes. I needed to cool off. You know, the credit to the guys for killing off the penalty. And then Jeff said, well, you know, and then, of course, you scored. And JT wasn't going to walk. He didn't want to walk through that door saying, yeah, I redeemed myself. He was not actually, oddly enough, going to give himself that credit. He said, yeah, I guess I scored. We won. But the point is we won. Like, and I didn't, you know, he didn't say it, but he implied again that, you know, he had let his team down. So, and that was it. There was nothing else to say. Yeah. Not done.
And I understand why he didn't want to highlight the goal, because he probably doesn't want to highlight the me in that part, right? Like, he doesn't want to appear in any way selfish, anything that could be taken as selfish. And we've heard what he's had to say about the media. So there is a gap there in the understanding. And anyways,
we want him to move on, so let's help him. We'll move on as well. This has been a nice start to the season. Everybody's a little excited. Maybe even the Canuck management a little excited. By all accounts, they're working the phones. And the question is, you know, when you
I love how it just takes the smallest sliver of success.
Light has creeped
and you can tell the owner's there rubbing his hands, going, we got to go. Let's go get that other defenseman, Patrick. Yeah, let's go get him.
And via the insiders, it's all they're going to be, they're trying to make a hockey trade, trying to, salary or, for the most part, not have to peel off anything. But of course, when you and I go shopping for X, your intentions are always to buy. I'm not going to buy the expensive one. I'm going to buy like the mid-range one. And then you get upsell. You'd be like, what? But for only this much more, you can get this. And so I can't help but think that the Canucks are going to be for only this much more, you can get X and peel off this or that. And then the question is that even the right decision with this team playing as well as it is? If it's only going to be a mediocre trade, PJ, I don't know, do you disrupt the chemistry for a maybe upgrade? To me, if you're going to get a much better defenseman, by all means, but that costs money. I don't mind disrupting the chemistry if you're emphatically getting a better player, but the question is, are they in the market for that kind of a player?
Listen, if you're the big boss man at this team, and let's be clear, we know he loves to leak stuff, so it seems like he's the big man in the league. Of course you're going to start telling people, here's what's happening. We want to make a trade. It's, every year, we really should, GM goes, we really need to be patient in free agency. Let's go sign someone. It's the same thing. And
something to sell. My season ticket subscribers. We got to get them excited.
It's a playbook that ownership's been using for, I don't know how long, but quite a while, where they think that the way to get fans excited is to do this. And I don't know. I look at the seats. I look at the stands on Saturday. I look at the stands on Tuesday. I look at the stands on Friday. If this is the marketing strategy, this is not the way. That if it's a team building strategy, great. If there's if there's going to be some smarts, great. And none of this is new. Like the idea that they need another top 4 defenseman, the idea that they need another winger. I mean, they've been talking about a winger forever. Like the last group was talking, none of this actually is that new. I don't think it's just that it's tied in with the fact that they've had a really good start, the best start since 05-06. Which, by the way, 05-06 did not end well. So, starts on everything. Listen, getting points now is really important, and they've gotten some wins so far this season that will stand them in good stead in the long run. We know this from watching the last 2 seasons. This team has put itself in a good position. It needs to keep doing this because, of course, in 2 weeks' time is American Thanks, or 3 weeks' time is American Thanksgiving, and 75% of the teams in playoff spot at that point are in the playoffs. So, yeah, getting ahead of things is also the Jim Rutherford method. Like, I wrote the profile of him before the season last year, and one of the things we talked about was in Carolina, oddly enough, in 05-06 when they won the Stanley Cup. And he just said everyone was talking about Doug Weight being the guy that people wanted to get up. And I just got ahead of the game and traded for him in January. Like that, he's done this before, picking up a guy to make your team better. And I think we know that the Canucks are in a window again where this is going to, I don't think they're a Stanley Cup contender, but you could see going into the year that the whole point was to make this team a playoff team. And now they're at, okay, well, looks like we might be a playoff team. So now we need to see if we can do more, which great. Go all in. Is this, is there the things they need could make them a really great team, but how do you do that with what you have? Are you really going to train another first rounder? Is there someone out there that is going to look at Vasily Podkolzin and say, okay, there's a guy that maybe fits our team better than it fits Vancouver right now? That's about all you got. What else do you have to move if you're going after something big?
I mean, you can go sun, moon, and stars if you want. And hey, there's a steal trade out there, probably. I mean, there's been steal trades made. Devon Toews is the most shining example.
Yeah.
It's just not likely. I mean, you can say that you're after that sort of a deal, but it's just, you can say that till you're blue in the face. It doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. So, the only way to make sure that it happens is if you've got something pretty great to dangle in front of another GM. Yeah. So the question is whether or not they should or will want to make that decision. And then is there any way you can argue it as a yes? I suppose the term and value of the contract is a matter. I mean, for a rental, I think you can argue that absolutely not. But if it's a guy that has term left, PJ, can you make the argument that it's worthwhile to make a trade like that, even if it costs them one of the top prospects or picks?
I mean, in theory, that's part of it's a weird case to make, but in theory, that's part of why they traded for Hronek last year. They're like, well, he's under contract for next year. We know what he is.
Yeah.
But making this, making any kind of deal like this means you got to get out from under Garland or Beauvillier or both or Myers, or the list goes on. Like there's a lot of. It's not like the Canucks have ideal parts to move out.
Well, that's why the Elliott's wording, they don't want to add sweeteners. Well, you do have to move salary. So would you consider Connor Garland and Jonathan Lekkerimäki for a top 4 right shot defenseman, and maybe you have to even go beyond that? Is that a hockey trade? I guess that's a hockey trade, right?
I think you could argue that, sure. But yeah, the idea of the sweetener. I mean, of course you're not going to add the sweetener. Of course, what else you could?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we'll give half the farm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so you're trying to make a hockey trade where you're moving out salary to be able to add whoever.
Well, Lekkerimäki is the sweetener
with a significant piece, right? Future piece.
Yeah.
As the give back. Rick Tocchet, has he put a foot wrong this year?
No.
I think it's almost been perfect.
Yeah. I was really taken by. I wrote a thing about Miller yesterday. It's up right now at theprovince.com. Miller talking about, or it was at what Rick said after he said yesterday. He was sort of asked about the idea that some coaches will say when you're winning, that's when you have to be really hard on the guys. And Rick said, no, like you got to pay attention to where they're at. You have to have an understanding of your player. Like he's a very emotional intelligence. Like this is a guy that,
good. Yeah.
Hockey coaches never seem to have actually gone anywhere to learn this stuff. They just know it. But this is Rick I've said this before. I'm really interested. I really like talking to him. He's a very interesting speaker. He thinks, I think, at a very high level. Again, you've got to see if it matters. I mean, his teams in Arizona. I touched on this last week. His teams in Arizona were super competent. They just didn't have any talent. His most talented consistent forward was old Phil Kessel.
I keep on wanting to paint him. I keep on wanting to paint him with an old school brush, and yet then he surprises us with these new school things.
He's not at all.
No,
he looks old school. He sounds old school.
That's the thing.
He was an old school player, right?
Yes,
he's an old
exactly.
school player, but he clearly understands how the game works. Kuz wrote that great profile of him before the season. Talked to Craig Berube, talking about Craig Berube. They were old roommates, and he said the biggest thing I learned from Berube is you have to get them to help players understand what they're doing. And it was just teacher stuff again. Like really? I was just like student-centered stuff. Like, what are we doing here? How are we involved? He said yesterday, listen, I could have yelled and screamed. We were terrible on Tuesday. We still won. I can't ignore that we won. Like if you get screamed at, you guys played like crap. The players at some point would be like, but we keep winning. So what is it? So he said, we didn't really talk about the game. Each of the coaches, we took a few players. We said, here's the thing I want to talk about. Thing you did well and thing you didn't need to do better at. And like that's smart stuff, because in the end, the players understand what the overall picture is, and you keep talking about the systems, and so they just inherently become, as he calls it, they're just doing the staples just as part of their nature. And
you have to pick your spots as a coach too, as to when you want to expend the angry bullets, right?
Well, that's it. Yeah, and you only have so long to say a certain amount of things to your team, especially if you're not, especially if you're in the middle. Like obviously losing teams, the coach goes first. But when you're sort of in the middle, and let's be clear, I mean, the Canucks are sitting up, but realistically, the Canucks are still a middle of the pack team. You can't be hammering on your guys every night. You have to have some perspective. You have to have a long view on all this. It's a long season. And as he said himself yesterday, he said, the players are going to tune you out inevitably at some point. Like there's only so many things you can ever say with a certain group of players.
You're amazing. I love our conversations. Thank you for this.
Happy to be here.
Look forward to next Thursday already.
All right, guys.
Finning Canada is your local dealer for cat equipment built to handle work in Western Canada. Visit finning.com for a location nearest you.